I can remember when I told my ex-husband I wanted a divorce. It was December 2019, and he was completely shocked, completely caught off guard, like dumbfounded, devastated, everything else. But the month before that, November of 2019, I remember very clearly having yet another talk with him about how unhappy I was. But this particular conversation, he was in his man cave room playing video games, which was like his favorite activity. And I go walking in and I tell him, like, I really want to talk about our marriage. Like, I'm not happy. It feels like we're roommates at this point, and I don't really have a partner, blah, blah, blah. This man was wearing his headphones because he was playing with a friend and they like talked to each other. He didn't even take his headphones off. He just pulled it off his right ear. This is almost 4 years ago now. I can still remember he pulled it off his right ear. And he didn't pause the game or stop playing. He continued to play a video game while his wife was standing in front of him, telling him how unhappy she was in the marriage. And I remember when he said to me something about like marriage being forever and whatever. And I said to him, well, maybe some marriages aren't meant to last. And he got so mad at me for saying that. But he didn't stop playing video games to have the conversation with me. And if that doesn't perfectly sum up why I divorced this man, then I don't know what does. And I feel like this is a very common trend. I hear about this type of stuff a lot, where the wife had expressed her concerns for months or even years, and then when she finally says, all right, I've done everything I could do, I want a divorce, then the husband's like, what do you mean? What's happening? I love you. Please don't leave me. Please don't take my kids from me. It's like, bitch, you should have put in effort. You had the opportunity. We give you so many opportunities to do the right thing. You chose not to. This is now the repercussions of your actions. Am I wrong?
I think it's funny how a lot of these women, when they're in marriages and whatnot, it's like, oh, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. Hey, husband, I'm not happy. Do something. Make me happy. I'm not happy. A lot of that boils down to you should probably work on that yourself. It's very hard for me to be the force that makes you happy. You not being happy could be for a ton of reasons out of my control. And just because I'm the man who's around all the time doesn't necessarily mean I have to be your constant happiness source. I mean, and honestly, this guy has a man cave. She's talking about it's his favorite thing to do. It's his favorite thing to do to go play video games and get away from her. I think that says a lot.
When a relationship ends between two people, you part ways. And that also means that you are both going to be at different levels in your processing of the grief, of the death of what once was, and all of that. And even months or years later, there can be certain triggers that pop up and you're like, whoa, I thought I dealt with that shit. Do not go back into the story that you want them or miss them or can't make it without that other person. Oftentimes what those triggers are trying to show you is that there's something unresolved within you that you need to address. And for me, watching my ex thrive, it's a beautiful thing, but it's really triggering for me because I walked away with literally having to start over after 12 years of starting over, of wondering if I'm going to be able to keep a roof over my head with my boys and not being able to just go out and play in our backyard like we used to.
Okay, so all this video tells me is that you were the problem.
Correct.
You were the one holding him back from whatever it was that he was trying to.
Yeah, and not to mention you split up the family, which is why they don't have that backyard anymore to play in, which is why you're concerned if they are going to have a roof that they can live under. It's all you. You're very selfish, and now you're triggered that this man is thriving without you in his life. It's hilarious. You're the problem here, no doubt about it.
Accomplish or do, now that you're saying that he's thriving after the fact, there was something there that continue to hold that man back from thriving and being successful. And this is what's crazy about a lot of these women that are filing for divorce, is they're not thinking through the aftermath of what's going to come, what's going to happen.
For sure.
You can't expect to continue to be a stay-at-home mom, to live a great lifestyle, whatever it was that you were able to have as a married woman with a husband doing whatever he was doing. That lifestyle will not continue. Even if you do get half of his money, you're still missing that other half. So whatever it is that you are now missing, whatever it is that you think that, it's a pity party, because now that you walked away from the marriage, you don't know how you're going to keep a roof over your head. Well, then maybe it's time to rethink what the heck you could have done differently. I'm sorry, but there's so many videos out here now that it honestly seems to me that a lot of these women are regretting their decision. Do not go and get a divorce just because of a feeling that you have. Because a lot of feelings are just temporary. It doesn't make any sense to destroy the life that you built with your husband.
Yeah, and this marriage is a long-term commitment. It's a long-term commitment. Those vows mean something. They're not just fancy words to make you feel good in front of a bunch of people. They mean something, and you should stick to them. But again, these modern women, very fickle, very fickle. And yeah, they don't really, maybe they just don't think ahead. Maybe there's a lot of that going on. But again, it's a long-term commitment. Fuck your feelings, honestly. Fuck your feelings. Like, they put too much emphasis on it. Some days you're not going to feel good. And I'm sure you felt that way before you were married. Every day isn't going to be sunshine and rainbows. Every day you're not going to feel immaculate and extremely happy and on cloud nine. And don't go and blame it on your husband and start, poking him. Hey, make me happy. I'm not happy. I tried to talk to you. I'm not happy. Well, maybe that's not my problem. Maybe you maybe you need to see a therapist. Get on some SSRIs.
Just because of a temporary feeling. And now you're on TikTok crying, talking about you don't know how you're going to afford to keep the roof over your head.
That would make sense, right? Like, that would make sense why so many of these women talk about not being happy. And then, yes, you go and you look at the SSRI usage. A lot of them, point blank, are unhappy. And then it seems like if you marry one of these ladies, they're going to blame that unhappiness on you. And then they're going to sabotage the entire marriage. And then they're just going to end up like her. Like, oh, wait, no, he wasn't the problem. It's me. I'm the problem. I'm triggered by his success. You're a big fat issue.
Like, come on now. This is just crazy.
Me calling my ex-husband while we were separated because I was having a panic attack and he was my safe person. Him coming to pick me up even though I was the one divorcing him. I completely understand this. I did it several times. I struggle with the sadness of the decision, but it was needed. So your ex-husband is needed, but he's your ex-husband. Mine didn't come. I go through them alone now, and it hurts every time. There is a disconnect happening where women are leaving their men, yet expecting them to stay and keep performing their husbandly duties. Do you think if he called her having a panic attack that she'd even pick up the phone? Being expected to constantly provide and care for people who have given up on them is not good for men's souls and their growth. It is beating them down mentally. Men already feel overlooked for their personalities and love to give, and feel more used for what they can provide, and crap like this is exactly why. Even if it's not your intention, it is so incredibly manipulative to break up with a guy and then expect him to console you through the breakup. Stop using your exes as free therapists.
Well, that's just what I was just saying. They think that maybe the guy is the problem. Maybe he's the source of their unhappiness. And as a man, you can try a bunch of things. If you really love her, you can try and help her out and help her overcome this unhappiness. But it gets to a certain point to where it's just they're the problem. They're an issue, ultimately. And, this is pretty ridiculous. How ridiculous is this? Look at this shit. me calling my now ex-husband while we were separated because I was having a panic attack and he was my safe person, then why would you leave the guy if he means so much to you? If he's your safe person, he's there for you, you clearly love the guy. So it's just, I have to believe that a lot of them think that their husband, the man they're with, is the source of their unhappiness or is the source of their trauma. So they leave him, and then they're still the same way. So then this unhappiness that while there used to be a man around to help them out with it, now he's gone. And the unhappiness is still there. The man's gone. You thought that would fix it, but it didn't. And try to get him to help you through this same exact unhappiness, which was probably the source of you leaving him. Crazy shit going on here.
I think even in society, we're taught that like when a divorce happens, you failed. And oh, I failed. Oh, that was the
Is this another woman trying to normalize divorce? Let's normalize divorce. Let's go ahead and remove the stigma behind failures. Can we please normalize leaving our husbands when we're unhappy?
hardest thing to face. Also because I couldn't speak to people about it. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional. I couldn't speak to people about it because I didn't have the safety net of
Couldn't speak to people about it, but I'm happy to go on the internet and speak to people about it.
the home base to lean on. His family became my family. But when the divorce happened, I knew that eventually that was going to fade. And I think that, not to take away from who he was in my life, but that was so painful. I was losing the family members that I grew so close to, that validated my feelings, that listened to me.
The question is, who asked for the divorce? Statistically, 80% of the time, it's the women. This speaks volumes about the modern mindset regarding marriage and commitment. The new generation seems to think divorce is a quick fix, a way out of any relationship issues, without considering the long-term consequences. They believe the grass is greener on the other side until reality starts hitting hard. Many women today are quick to opt for divorce at the first sign of trouble. This is a stark contrast to previous generations, where people worked through their problems and stayed committed. Modern women often prioritize personal happiness over the vows they took. They fail to realize that marriage is not always about constant bliss, but about mutual support and overcoming challenges together. When these women decide to leave, they often do so with unrealistic expectations of what life will be like afterward.
Yeah, no, I would imagine she's the one who initiated the divorce, and she wants to now, because she did it, because it was her action, she's the one, probably, sounds like she did file for divorce. And because she did that, she wants to go ahead and normalize divorce because she did it, and she doesn't like the way it makes her feel when people don't treat it as a normal thing. She wants it to feel normal so she doesn't have to feel anything. Ultimately, growing up, I heard a lot about how modern men are not built for marriage anymore. They're all very deathly afraid of commitment. They all have Peter Pan syndrome. You know, I heard a lot of this growing up, and I was given this idea that it's the women who are perfect and really are just waiting for marriage, and they all want to get married, and they're still traditional women. It's like I was given this kind of idea growing up, and now that I now fully understand that what's interesting, actually, you know, of course, in my opinion, men are still marriage material. They're still built for marriage. They're still built for long-term commitment, whereas I'm just looking at the numbers here, and I bring them up a lot. 70 to 90% of women are initiating the divorces. That tells me something. That tells me that actually it's women who are not built for long-term commitment. It's women with the Peter Pan syndrome. It's women who are flaky. It's women who don't take their vows seriously. It's women who are so obsessed with their happiness. And by the way, it's also women who are extremely unhappy. They're extremely anxious. Something's going on with them. And where a lot of them take medication, I bring that up a lot as well, but it's true. These are things we need to talk about. And they don't want us to, you know, women out there, just people in general, they get uncomfortable when we bring these things up, but it's very true. And now that I'm a man, almost in his 30s, I realize that men are still built for long-term commitment. They're not the ones ending and splitting up families at a crazy high rate. It's the women. And people will call me names for saying that. People will call me names for pointing that out. But facts are facts. Anyways, I'm going to leave the video there. So if you made it this far, appreciate a like and a subscription. And I'll see you later.